Will y'all please stand for the invocation?
If you'll join me. Father God, we just come to you now and we just thank you and we praise you for the rain that you're bringing to our land. We just pray that you continue to bless this land with more moisture, Lord, and that it's general and that everyone can enjoy that. Lord, we thank you for your faithfulness. We thank you for your favor. And we just ask right now that you give wisdom to the commission as they set out to do the work of the county. And we just ask that you give them your peace and your guidance in all that they do. I just ask that you please bless each and every employee of this county and everyone that's here today, Lord. And we just ask a special blessing on those men and women that are protecting our great nation. It's in your son's name we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, as this symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
First item is approval of agenda.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, approval of minutes from May 6th special meeting. And I'll second. We got a motion and a second for May 6 minutes. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of minutes from May 20th, budget workshop. I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of counts payable and payroll.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. This time we will have public requests. Does anyone have anything? Okay. We'll move on to item 5, elected official and department heads. Commissioners, we're going to welcome NMDOT District 2 Engineer Francisco Sanchez and Local Government Relations Director George Dodge. I would like to thank both of you very much for coming, and if y'all want to get up and say something.
I know, keep pressing it.
We'll trade.
Well, Chairman Dixon and the commissioners, pleasure. Thank you for the invitation. Francisco Sanchez, we've had the pleasure of meeting most of you. I am the new District 2 engineer overseeing District 2 operations. A lot of you were very familiar with Tim Parker. He had a great relationship with all the governmental bodies, local cities. And my goal is to continue those relationships, because that's definitely how we're going to improve our overall system, whether it's the state facilities and your routes. And so we're hoping to continue that kind of partnership. And so I know work with County Manager Amber and in a lot of the local government road funds and some of the fundings we have. Right now, what I'm doing as the new district engineer, of course, going out and introducing myself to the local government bodies, but also internally with our staff and our own routes here in District 2, is just kind of doing a full evaluation of how our operations is working, seeing what's good, what needs improvement, what we continue to do to get better. And the same thing in our operations and our relationships with the counties and the cities, especially with our state facilities that are important to your constituents, and how we can work together to improve a lot of these state routes. Right now, you're going through some transformation, especially with how your routes are changing. A lot of them are increasing with traffic, commercial vehicle type traffic, and our hopes in counties like Roosevelt, Um, and I'll give an example. The DOT, we experienced that big oil and gas industry boom in 2010, and we were kind of late to the game to try to improve those routes because those routes weren't made for that type of traffic. And I know you're experiencing that a little bit on some of your routes. And so we're hoping by evaluating all our state system right now internally with staff and also through some of our modeling software, see if we can get ahead of some of these routes before they deteriorate too quickly. And so that's kind of what we're looking at. And we want to have that relationship with the county to come out and discuss with you, seeing what's important and kind of prioritize to put a plan together to help the state facilities within your county. And of course, something that's been very beneficial to District 2 the last few years is the state appropriation, the general fund money that's coming to District 2. And hopefully, working with George and our fellow partners in the legislative bodies, we're hoping to continue that kind of state funding because that state funding has been a boom to District 2 and improving our overall system. For the longest time, the level of funding we had, we have modeling software. So we, as engineers, we look at deterioration curves on our highways, and no matter what, the level of funding we had, our curve has been going down every year. It's going to keep getting worse. But with this recent state funding the last 3-4 years, we were able to kind of stabilize that curve and address a lot of routes we wouldn't get because before we were mainly federally funded in a lot of jobs. So the district engineers like myself were focusing on a lot of U.S. routes. But now that we're getting a little bit more state funding, we're able to look at some other high priority state routes. And so that's kind of the discussion I'd like to have with all of you to try to focus, maybe what's a high priority route that we need to look at within Roosevelt County. And so that's one of my goals here today. Second is, any questions. Of course, one of the benefits of this state funding is also the created Transportation Public Fund or Transportation LTPF Fund. And I know you guys are taking an opportunity of that. That's $20 million directly for the local routes. And I think that's going to be a big benefit to all of us, where we can partner up and identify your routes and the improvement, but how they can maybe tie into ours and kind of improve the overall system. So, and I stand for questions.
Real quick, first and foremost, I'd like to thank you for being here. Not me to see you again.
Right.
After we go together for the rest of the team.
Right.
Thanks to you, always like the idea of networking with the
Mhm.
But we need to find money to save funds. Within Roosevelt County, very big project, I.e. the Florida Highway or for instance, either the Floyd Highway or the Cacahuate Road. I know I've traveled those quite a bit, pretty frequent going to Lubbock, back and forth and stuff. And I've seen the deterioration, even though it's been patched up over the years.
Right.
But is it going to be fully funded? Amber had mentioned that I think that would be some allocations.
No, 202. So that's 202 and 267, and both of those had the rechip recent.
Right. So right now, like I said, we're looking at all our road systems, and of course, we plan in our STIP, 4-year plan, and we also try to plan our maintenance within that 4-year span. And frankly, when I went through it, we don't have anything planned for Roosevelt, and so that's why I want to have this discussion to see if the routes within Roosevelt is something we should be planning and looking at the priority of those routes within our overall system. Because right now, there's not one project in the STIP, and there's not one the state funding we received the last 3 years, and then this year, nothing was dedicated to Roosevelt County. We have addressed routes through our maintenance forces, like the chip seal, but what we've been able to do, and you've seen a little bit in Portales, because we are receiving a little bit more state funding, and our crews are able to do a little higher level of maintenance type work. And then I'm looking to enhance that to the next level where our maintenance staff can maybe do closer to a construction project or reconstruction project. So our maintenance staff is really getting proficient at doing paving projects, and you saw that a little bit in Portales. We paved those, and so we're looking to do that more on some of the higher level state routes that we've kind of neglected over the years. And also, if we see the need or evaluate, with your input, maybe we start looking at the Floyd highways and stuff to start programming the STIP if that fits within our overall program for all of District 2.
If memory serves you right and me right, years ago when I met with Tim Parkey and your team, y'all's team, one of the things that he had mentioned is that Roosevelt County back then, that was years ago, we weren't even in the radar. Is there a way that we can get on the radar from here on out?
Oh, definitely.
He said one of the biggest, I'm not going to call it problems, but one of the biggest concerns he had was that he didn't have enough professional relationship as much as he wanted with us, and it wasn't nobody's fault. So that's why I think that it's really, really good for you to be here and meet us face to face. That way you can match districts, faces, commissioners. Amber, of course, you've known her forever. And secondly, I'd like to thank you guys because you know that I had talked about the Levington Highway and West Spur back in the day, and
Correct.
it came through fruition. So I wanted, it did take some years, but at least it got done. So I want to thank you guys for that as well.
Appreciate that. And like I said, Roosevelt's, similar to some of the counties, but at the same time, it has a little bit of differences to some of the Chavez's. You have the main highway through here, a little bit of 60, but 70, and then you have a lot of New Mexico routes. And for the longest time, our funding really did not allow us to really, we prioritize based on roadway classification. We're always going to look at that first, and that's always, U.S. routes are always going to be at the top. But we understand that a lot of the state routes now are, and I'll give a prime example, like New Mexico 128. In our system, that's a priority 3 route. And you just drive out there and that's not a 3 route. So when you look at some of these Roosevelt routes, we prioritize our routes 1 through 6 in our classification system. And if you look at our network, a lot of the Roosevelt routes that are state routes, they're like 3, 4, 5s, and 6s. But having this relationship, maybe we look at the way they're prioritized, and maybe we're missing something because we're just going by our data, historical data, past history, and with this relationship, maybe we learned as the DOT that this is not really a 4 or a 3. This is really a 2, and this is something that does have to be in the radar.
I want to say thank you for coming, of course. But I hope we can go ahead and continue to build a better relationship and be transparent. And if we got a problem, you can help us or we can help you. But thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner, I appreciate that. Transparency is huge for me. That's something I've been pushing with our staff. There's no need to be hiding anything. We're upfront. We're transparent. We'll work with each other on critical issues. At the same time, I want transparency where if we can't do something, we're going to tell you why we can't do it and go from there. We don't want to give the impression that we're going to do something we're not. If we can plan it, we'll do that, and we'll try our best to work together.
Very much. But I would also like to say that I would like us to look at New Mexico 114 all the way to the Texas line.
Okay, and that's, yes, definitely, Chairman Dixon. Well, that's been brought up a couple of times, and we kind of see it on the radar, so we'll look at that. Okay. Like I said, Tim had and Amber was part of them. He liked to have the community or county outreach meetings every 6 months or biannually, and we'll try to continue that. The secretary has given us a full-time employee for a liaison, a local government liaison, and so she'll be, or whoever we hire in that position, will start those meetings up again. But I'm more one-on-one. Mr. Parker like bigger meetings with the county, the city. I like to have a smaller group, so those meetings between us will just be county and us, and not necessarily the other entities around here. I think smaller groups are are more efficient and can really get down to the problems a lot better than trying to have a big audience. Sometimes the messages get lost. So hopefully here in the next few months, when we do hire that new liaison, we can have some more internal meetings together and kind of get the focus on what needs to be done in Roosevelt County.
Madam Chair, if I can. So thank you very much for coming. I wanted to ask, in the past, Mr. Parker had us do a resolution to where the commission laid out the priorities on state routes. And that was something that they provided to him. Is that something that we would need to revisit and that could be helpful in terms of setting at least a priority list of here are the state routes as identified in the county?
That would definitely be helpful, because we prioritize our method. But it's, like I said, when I work with other counties in the city, your county, your constituents, your traffic. So that would definitely be helpful.
Okay, thank you. And then the other thing, obviously, is for Mr. Dodge. We don't want you to miss out since you came all this way. Thank you for being here. I know myself and Commissioner Greider worked very closely with your office and secured the funding for the project that we're doing out there in District 5 for the North Roosevelt Road AV fencing project, as well as the Sundell Valley Road. We have at this point encountered challenges, I guess we would say, with the state land office, and I discussed them briefly with the district engineer, but we're having an issue now getting our permitting to move forward. And I know that money has a time frame on it and it has to be spent by December. However, the state land office is an obstacle right now that I would definitely want you to be aware of. They are requiring us to go forward. We've spent about $3,000 right now just on initial surveys. That road's been in existence since the 1960s. However, they're stating that they don't have the appropriate paperwork on file for like the right-of-way applications and such. So they're making us go back through all of that process, and and that again is only the fencing along North Roosevelt Road AV, but they're tying the two permits together. So they won't let us have any kind of permitting to move forward with the Sundell Valley Road until they will clear the North Roosevelt Road AV fencing issues. So I don't know if y'all have any contacts or if there's any way we can work together with the state land office to kind of move this along. We're starting to feel the pressure because our window on this weather allotment, we need to be done by October. And so the sooner we can get in there and get started, we had initially planned to start in May. Now we're, really cautious about even a June start date until we can move through them. So,
And then, Madam Chair and Commissioners, thank you for the invite and look forward to meeting with you a little bit more one-on-one and in person and seeing what we can do in Roosevelt County. Thank you.
thank you. Thanks.
Madam Chair, I'm assuming I can come up here. You didn't call me up here, but I'm assuming I can come up here. Thank you very much. And I really love being here. And we were talking to Commissioner Greider, where it's been 2.5 years since I was in front of the commission over there in the commission chambers, and it seems like time has passed so fast. But I really appreciate the invite to come and speak with you folks again, and wearing a totally different hat this time, as opposed to the last time. And it's like I told Commissioner Greider, I says, you know what, God works in mysterious ways, and here I am. But I do have to say that the last time I was in this building, and we were talking about this a little bit ago, the last time I was in this building, there was a big door there, and it was just totally different than what it is now. And whoever's responsible, obviously the commission and Amber and the staff, wonderful job. And I remember when this was I'm not trying to date myself or anything, but I remember when this was the Armory, and you know what, it's a great job, and that looks awesome right there. So congratulations on that. But just for the record, my name is George Dodge Jr., and I'm the local government relations director for the state of New Mexico. I work directly for Secretary Sandoval, and I cover the entire state, and I work with all 6 of our district engineers. And I got to say that Francisco's done a wonderful job since he's been the engineer, the district engineer. And I worked with Tim quite a bit, not only as a district engineer at this level, but also when I was in the legislature, and he was a great engineer, and he's carrying that on um, in a wonderful manner. So, but just a quick description of what I do. I work closely with counties, work closely with cities, I work closely with any municipality and schools, as far as being some type of a liaison between Department of Transportation, the Secretary's office, and those entities. So you know what, it's been a wonderful experience. I've traveled the state pre-COVID, obviously, but we met in Cloudcroft for the managers retreat and different things, and it's been a heck of an experience. I haven't met with a lot of entities, but I'm making my way around the state again, just to make sure that the secretary is aware of all the needs and all the concerns um, from everybody. So, but it's been great. And Francisco mentioned the Transportation Project Fund and the $20 million. We're $120 million um, appropriated by the legislature, and each district got their $20 million. And this is the precursor to the Local Government Transportation Project Fund. The original was $50 million, and this one is now $120 million. So you can thank folks like Stuart Engel and Representative Zamora and Senator Woods and these types of folks that gave local entities this money. And it was a little bit of a battle in the legislature with some folks, but I'll tell you what, it was your local legislators that helped us a bunch, and that's another focus of mine. Due to my past history, I work a lot with Senator Engel. I work a lot with Senator Woods, Representative Zamora, Representative Anderson, Representative Chatfield, everybody that represents this area. And I still work closely with all of those folks. So, you know what, it's been an adventure. Working on the other side of the aisle on behalf of Department of Transportation. So one other quick thing I'll mention before I stand for questions, but I also work for the Homeland Security. I am a program manager, a state program grant manager. And I'll tell you what, if you folks ever want to go for an adventure, try working for FEMA and try working for Homeland Security, because it's been quite an adventure the last year that I've been there. And I was, how shall I put this? I was recruited to work with Homeland Security when COVID first started, and I've been with them for almost a year now. And I melded both duties, government relations director for DOT and program manager for Homeland Security. And I got to say, you know what, your administration here in the county is on top of it. You know, Amber's on top of it. All your department heads are on top of it. If I've got a phone call, if I need to make a phone call and get some information from somebody as far as COVID-19 issues, payments, things like that, I get results right away. Same thing with DOT portion of it. So it's been wonderful working with your administration. So with that, you know what, I stand for questions. If you have any questions for me or any way I can help you, let me know. And I do have to say that I'll be leaving. I've got a Farmers Electric Board meeting going on in Clovis right now, and the chairman's calling me and saying, I'm wondering where I'm at. So, but once we're done here, I do have to take off. No insult or anything like that. Just, you know, just to let you know as a matter of respect. So with that, Madam Chair, I stand for questions. Members of the commission. Yes, sir.
Francisco mentioned earlier that they're in the process of hiring a liaison for our district. That means that you represent all 6 districts, but does that mean that that person will take over? That person will be the to-go person for us here in our county, right?
Yeah, Madam Chair and members of the commission and Commissioner Lopez, each district will have their own liaison. Okay, and this is a new position that was created by Secretary Sandoval for that reason. Okay, I work with the districts, each and every district, and each one's got their local government person, and now each one's going to have the second liaison. So there's a lot more transparency, and there's a lot more cooperation, and and communication. And that's the secretary's intent on these new positions, to make sure that entities like yourselves have a direct link. But I don't oversee them. They work directly for the district engineers. Okay. And I'm more of an overseer, and I travel around the state, and I meet with entities all over just to make sure everything is
Thank you.
is
So
good
I
with
think
them.
that's going to be advantageous. to us.
Absolutely. It's a great thing.
Right. No doubt. Thank
Yeah,
you.
You bet. Madam Chair, it's a great thing for all communities to have these new positions coming on board to make sure that all your needs are met. So
Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it.
absolutely. Madam Chair, commissioners, any questions? You all have my card. You have anything? Amber calls me at 10 o'clock sometimes at night, but I will definitely look into Sunnydale Road. I was in the room when all that happened there in Santa Fe, and it was a great job by your staff. But I did not know that the land office was putting a roadblock in there.
Well, thank you. We've just been working on it now for several months,
Mhm.
and having to get engineers, getting the surveys done and everything. It's just coming to a point now where it's becoming very cumbersome and concerning when we talk about this funding. And we appreciate both your heart and Secretary Sandoval's heart for the rural areas. I think it was very well spoken when we all met, that he understands that there are challenges that we face that are unique out here in our rural areas. And sometimes we don't have maybe necessarily the exact same traffic count as another road in Sandoval County or Bernalillo County, but it doesn't mean that it's any less dire or less of an arterial roadway, as you're aware of, for our little areas. So we appreciate that. And we appreciate your willingness to help us. We do have our application in for the Transportation Project Fund. We're ready and have one shovel ready. And so thank you for also helping to ensure that the rural counties are going to have the voice, and that the administrative rules on the back end are not going to prevent the rural counties from having access to that. Because again, our traffic counts may not be quite as high as the others, but it's a very important road that we put in there. So we're excited to see how this new funding really works.
Sure. And Madam Chair and members of the commission, and Amber, you know what, we do have a focus on the rural areas, and Secretary Sandoval has mentioned many times the importance of our rural areas and the roads in our rural areas. So that's one of his main focuses. So you know what, it's not a problem, but I will look into this with the land office and see where we're at on that. But thank you very much for bringing that to my attention, and we'll get that thing done one way or another. I know it's been a long haul since the legislative session in 2019. It's been a long haul, but we'll take care of it. We'll find out what's going on. So
Thank you so much.
thank you folks very much. If you need anything, call me. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Treasurer's Office, Lael Sanchez.
Good morning, Madam Chairman Dixon and Commissioners. And Amber, thank you for letting me follow that. Thank you, gentlemen. That was wonderful to hear from you. Today, we're going to talk some money. And for your beginning cash for March, you were $5,835,067.85. You had debits of $433,267.94. And you had credits of $2,292,625.16, leaving your ending cash at $3,975,710.63. I don't have any other information as far as the cash balances unless you have questions for me. Everything sounds good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Moving on to Finance, Liliana.
Good morning, Commissioners, Madam Chair. So, Lael just reported on also March. I'll also be reporting on March. This is for the third quarter financial report that we submit to the Department of Finance. It represents all of the funds the county oversees. Included in your packet is the report, the recap report, revenues collected and expenditures for each fund with their balances as of March 31st. At that time, general fund had an adjusted balance of just a little over 9.5 million. That, of course, includes the county's investments. Road fund had an adjusted balance of just a little over 1.4 million. The total for all funds as of March 31st had an adjusted balance of just a little over 15.2 million. With 75% of the year expended through March, all of the offices and departments were performing at or below that mark. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
No good? Thank you very
Thank
much. Do what? Mhm. Planning, Mr. Montiel. Thank you, Liliana.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I'm going to give a brief update on the process for the new FEMA maps that are coming out for preliminary maps. Right now, we're in the preliminary stage of the maps. They've been sent to us. We've been reviewing them and looking at them. So in the physical map revision process, the next step will be a CCO meeting, which stands for a consultation coordination meeting with the Officer Trey Roselle from FEMA Region 6. The meeting was held to present the preliminary flood insurance study, which is the FIZ, and the preliminary flood insurance rate map, which is the FIRM, for Roosevelt County and the incorporated communities in Roosevelt County. The FIZ, which is the flood insurance rate study, and it updates the previous FIZ that we have now, and it's going to update the firms that we have now, which FIRM stands for flood insurance rate maps. Forgive me, I know these acronyms, but I got to remember that I got to explain the acronyms to everybody else. But for me, it's just natural just to say by the acronyms. So please forgive me on that also. If you have any questions by any acronyms, please don't hesitate to let me know. Okay. What was discussed during the meeting was the availability of the preliminary firms. They will be soon published in the local newspaper, and that schedule is dictated by the Federal Register. And what that means is that it could be late June before it gets published in the newspaper. So what that means is that once it's published, it'll be published in a 10-day period, 10-day period. On the second day of that publication in the newspaper, that will start the 90-day comment and review period for the county and all affected areas within Roosevelt County. That at that 90-day period, that will allow the citizens of Roosevelt County and the county to comment or appeal any of the flood maps that have been drafted. So what that means is that I've been going through the maps and reviewing them and seeing what kind of information that's on them. So right now I'm still reviewing them and taking notes and seeing what kind of comments that I'll be doing. So the difference between a comment and an appeal is a comment is basically we're going to go in there and fix typos. Maybe they got a road name wrong or something that's a small fix. An appeal is going to be a type of information that we need to report to FEMA saying, hey, you missed this area of Roosevelt County. It floods right here, but we missed it. But we're also going to have to back that up with some type of study, okay? A hydraulics or hydraulic study to back that up. So that's what we'll have to do during the appeal part of it. The comment part of it basically is just to fix typos, okay? Once the comment and the appeals are addressed, a letter of final determination will be issued to each community. Then within the 6 months period, we will have to, the preliminary firms will be effective. They'll replace what we have now, okay? Once that's done, we'll have 6 months to update our ordinance, and then each joining
community will have to adopt a new floodplain ordinance, which will be Elida and Floyd, okay? And we will help them with adopting those ordinances. And then once that's done, we'll have to submit those ordinances to FEMA for their approval of the ordinance, see how, if they're, how our restrictiveness is towards their standards, okay? So we'll meet their minimum standards and then maybe go up a little bit on top of that, okay? Okay, so as you have before you, I showed y'all, I've given y'all a couple of maps of the preliminary floodplains. Yeah, I forgot to bring mine. No, I got them right here. See, I get up here and it just turns to everything else. So let's go ahead and look at the one marked 470E. I highlighted some areas just as a reference point so we can see the difference in between the changes that are going to be made. Longer one is what we have right now, is our firm that we have right now. And if you can look at the one, which would be the smaller one, it's still indicated. That one shows the airport. You can see the difference of the changes between the flood zones, how much difference there is from the first one to now. So what that means is that, oh, sorry. So what that means is that there's a lot of areas there that are susceptible for flooding. And so whenever we go in there and residents want to develop in that area, that means right now they're in a flood zone D, which means it's undetermined. There is no study done on that property. There's no information on the property. So we don't know. With this map, we know that it's either going to be in an A zone, AE zone, flood depth, or a BFE. A BFE being a base flood elevation. Okay, so there's some type of coincidence, and they want to develop. We know that they're either going to build 1 foot above the highest adjacent grade, or they're going to have to build to the base flood elevation. It could be, for an example, 4,013 feet above elevation. So what will happen is they'll have to be at or above that base flood elevation, so it won't flood there at that property. Okay. So that's one of the examples. Of course, there's another one looking at 470. That's in the outer parts of the Floyd area. If you look at that flood map, what we have in hand versus to the what the preliminaries are, you can see the quite a bit of difference in the flood zone. Okay, yeah, 475E, yes, sir. Again, in that area, the population there is there's population there, but it's not as populated as other areas. But still, it's in a flooded area. So with these maps, there is quite a bit of difference from what they did back in 2010, I believe. In October of 2010 to now. So what that means is also that by having these maps, any developer can come in here and start developing, because now we have some type of study to go off of. Right now, it's hard for a developer to develop anything out there because they won't build in a zone D. Their policies won't let them, their insurance won't let them. It's hard for them to develop in a zone D because there's no determination. They don't know if it's going to flood, and so they need to know. So most of the area in Roosevelt County will be a zone X, which is outside the special flood hazard, but it has some type of designation. And a lot of developing companies will develop in a zone X because there are some studies behind it. Okay? So there is quite a bit of difference from the flood maps from 2010 to the flood maps that we're looking at now, yes, it's going to affect a lot of people as far as the insurance and developing, but it's moving forward and it's going to actually help people in the future. So I hope that was as clear as mud, and I stand for any questions.
Occurs every 10 years, right?
No, sir. This is
How-
something that was brought up back when Commissioner Creighton was looking into. I think he may have had somebody that was having trouble with the area in his district, and so we looked into I reached out to, with permission, I reached out to FEMA, and they have a new thing back then was called base level engineering. And so what that was that they utilized their LiDAR information, and they came and studied Roosevelt County. Okay, when that was done, then the information was um, broken down, developed, and so we were able to see where we're having trouble in the county as far as flooding. And then from there, it moved us into the physical map revision because there were some hazards that were seen throughout the county.
What the city does, right? What the committees that they get. for recommendations from
That
FEMA.
no, because it was all included. This is actually going to help the city as far as their CRS, which is their rating system in their process. So I can't answer that question, Commissioner Lopez.
And I remember dealing with this years ago, when I was
Right.
commissioner back in the day. And one of the things that occurred back then, what the committee recommended, that everything flood zones be lifted in and around the globe area. You know,
Right.
we all know that
Yes.
water flows south, but they lifted that flood zone and they implemented the flood zone all of North Portales. So all of my constituents were tagged into, were required by law to
Mhm.
get flood insurance in the residences. And then that's when Oakwood Manor went in about a year later. So I was just wondering, because I would like to partake in that and make sure that, our constituents are taken
Yeah.
care of.
And so back then, I remember that it was done it was in 2011, I believe. What is called a LOMAR, a letter of map revision, was done in order to correct some of the issues that were not correct in the flood maps back in 2010. So the LOMAR revised the maps, the regulatory maps that were produced, and then the LOMAR corrected them. And so that fixed the flooding part of the south side of town. And so, yes, you are correct. They are required to get flood insurance, but if their mortgage is federally backed, if the mortgage company requires flood insurance, that's when it's required. If a person outright owns the property and owns the structure, then it's up to them if they want to carry the flood insurance. Now, if they get flooded out and something was to happen, then of course they're not going to have the insurance to help them. And from the way I understand the insurance, it's a minimum amount. And through this process, we will get educated on the insurance part of it. But from what I understand, the way they're telling me as far as how the insurance works, it's going to be throughout that 1 year, the people that buy the insurance will be at a rate. And then throughout the year, then at the end of the year, then it'll be kicked over to what the regular rates will be as far as flood insurance. So they'll get a break at the beginning. And the way I understand it, at the end, that's when they'll get the regular rate as far as flood insurance goes. But that was done through a LOMAR, a letter of map revision. Yes, sir.
I have a question to ask here.
Yes, sir.
So on the blue on your maps, that's what FEMA has appointed as a flood zone.
The blue and the brown. Okay.
The blue and the brown?
Yes, sir.
And you're wanting to add everything in the pink or what with your?
No. That was just a reference because the maps, for me, I have a hard time seeing it. So I needed a reference point to see to show the two maps. So if you were looking at that map, let's just say we're looking at 475 and you're looking at that highlighted part, it's just a reference so you can dictate, well, this is the map for this map.
You're just saying that's the airport.
Yeah, the airport one day, yeah, indicating the airport. That way you can reference it.
Well, where's the other side of the railroad tracks on this map?
I just brought these certain maps because they had some big difference changes in them.
there's no way for any of us to question what they've already marked off as
Oh,
flood
no,
zone?
I can get you information on any of the maps. You can come to my office and we'll have links on our website where you can go on to the FEMA's BLE viewer. And all you got to do is type in your address or click on a point on the map and it'll bring up the information on that property that you're looking at. And we'll have all that on our website.
Will we have to agree to their map when they make it, or will it be?
That's why once they initiate that 90-day comments and appeal timeframe, yes, we'll have to we'll end up agreeing or disagreeing with it. But if we disagree with it, then we got to show proof.
I would like to see a full map before we agree or disagree and have a little time to look at it.
Well, again, there's really it's just the comment or appeals. So if we have a disagreement on something, then we have to show why it's wrong.
Yeah,
through some type of
without the whole
study.
map, I can't
Yes, sir.
agree
you're
or
mo-
disagree with it.
yeah, you're more than welcome, and I can pull up all the maps that you want to, or I can show you through the website how to get access to all the maps. Yes, sir.
Fortunate thing I think Commissioner Lee is hitting at is there is no changing this data to speak of. I mean, other than errors and omissions. This is something that was shot with their LiDAR, and this is what they have determined. So this is the position where we're going to be at this point. So when Johnny talks about agree or disagree, really it's not about, I mean, it is. I mean, it's already in the works and it's past, like the horse is out of the gate.
Well, they're not going to
So-
bring us anything for us to vote on to say, yes, we accept this, or no, we disagree. Because that's what I'm saying.
They found out that there was a hazard.
If they're going to make this rule and there's nothing we have to sign that we agree to it, I'm all right. But if I have to sign something saying, yes, I believe this, I'm not signing that without seeing all of it.
Well, Commissioner Lee, that's my whole point. From that study that was done years ago, none of my constituents had a choice, any say. We didn't even have any say. They just did it. They drew it up. They made North Portales a flood zone. They lifted Glovis and all that area as a non-flood zone, and that's what I'm saying. It's unfair, and I don't like signing off on something
I'm not
unless
signing it.
we're all going to be in agreement with it.
So I'm not signing anything from anywhere unless I agree to it.
And like I said, you're more than welcome to come by and look at the maps. I can show you how to access the maps, and if you have any questions, then we'll talk about it. But I've looked over all the maps. The data is good. The information on there is good. Well, except for typos and stuff that we got to get. But as far as the floodplain, it's good because now we have something to look at, and we just don't have zone Ds where it's hard for anybody to work or develop, and it just makes it difficult.
Oh, on that, Johnny, I know when I bought my home,
Mhm.
they tried to do what Dennis said they was going to charge me flood insurance
Mhm.
because I was in a flood zone.
Yes.
Well, I live on top of a hill that's 30 feet above the city of Portales. And I told the mortgage company, I said, that's ridiculous because if it floods my house, there ain't gonna be no community anyway. So, I mean, I'm not willing to sign any map that shows high areas in our county as a flood zone where it decreases the value of the property.
But on your property back then, your property was probably in the zone D. Okay, it's undetermined. There's no study done on it. So it's hard for a mortgage company to say, okay, well, you need flood insurance, so you're going to have to buy zone A flood insurance because it's a zone D. It's undetermined. It's hard for those mortgage companies to make a determination if you're going to need that flood insurance or not. Roosevelt County is basically all zone D. It's hard for anybody to make any type of determination. These maps will help a lot of people. Yes, it's going to have people get insurance, especially if you're in a federally backed mortgage. Yes, you'll have to probably get insurance, but it helps Roosevelt County. And again, if you whatever maps you want to see, you're more than welcome to come by. I can again show you, and get you access to any of the maps.
Preliminary
Mhm.
update that you're
Yeah,
giving
no, it's a
us.
preliminary.
We're not doing that today. Okay.
No,
so
we're not doing
that's-
nothing today.
Then I'll stand.
Thank you. Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Miss Hamilton.
Yes. Okay. So after following that ball of fun, we're going to start with the super fun part. We have a guest here today, and it's with mixed bag of feelings that we get to talk about this. So, Mr. Efren Urias is joining us today, and he is actually preparing for his final tour with the road department, and will be retiring shortly. And so we wanted to bring him in today and just recognize him for his extraordinary work after 25 years. It's just incredible. We really appreciate all the work that you've done. I know in the last little bit you've been dedicated in District 2, and our District 2 commissioner wasn't able to be here today. But we just wanted to take some time for the commission and ourselves to express our deepest appreciation to you for all your years of service. I know Mr. Lovato is taking care of the special recognition and everything that he has planned through the Road family. But we wanted to take our chance to express just how grateful we've been for all of your service and your expertise. And you are going to be missed. We wish you the best, but we're going to miss you. So when you get bored and you want to come back part-time or something, you know. But we really appreciate everything. And I don't know if the commissioners want to share.
I'd just like to get up and shake his hand and thank him because he's been a great member of our community in the South and of Roosevelt County.
You think all everybody?
His family, I've known them for a lot of years, and I want to thank Efren as well for everything that you've done. Like I said, I've known your family, and I know you had me through Dad, through me with the commission, and thanks again. We'll get together sometime and celebrate your years of service.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the next thing, Madam Chair, Commissioners, we briefly touched on this in our workshops, but we're looking to reschedule our June meetings to June 8th and June 22nd due to the rotation of this meeting and how everything's adjusted. It will also help with some pending procurements that we need to do. So I will get some public announcements out for those to follow up to our discussion from our budget workshops. And that was actually the announcement for the June 8th meeting was included on this agenda that went out as well. I am excited to share that our workers' comp from the New Mexico County's Insurance Authority Pool Board, the directors voted at their May 12th meeting to reduce the compensation coverage contributions by 50% for this next fiscal year for all current members. Because of the financial strength of the pool, it allows the board to do such. And Roosevelt County's contribution for the current year was $35,057, and our contribution for fiscal year 22 will be $34,428, which is a negative 1.8% change And that follows, again, the study that they do on our payroll and the net change that we have there. So we're excited to have that as well in there. And we wanted to also acknowledge everyone has received a letter from the Secretary of State's office in regards to the precinct boundary adjustments and the redistricting guidance. There is a heavy amount of this burden, obviously, that rests on the county clerk's office. However, there is some role to the commission, and in that letter, it gave you an outline of what those responsibilities are, as well as the deadlines. I know that our county clerk will keep us informed of that, but the commission also will be able to be actively involved in the commission redistricting if the numbers warrant. There has to be a percentage change, I believe, of a difference of more than like 5% between your district populations for y'all to have to redraw your district boundaries for your commissions. But that may be something that the commission has to do. We're still going to wait on the aggregate data. We need to see our population numbers and where all of those districts lie in terms of inhabitants and everything. So as soon as we receive the census data, then we'll move forward. And those dates are in here. I know Mandy's very well aware of those. We will just monitor those and keep the commission apprised of what we need to do as we move forward.
Two districts that I'll bring to you in the June 8th meeting, but those are not due to census redistricting rules. Those are due to the high voter turnout for the 2020 election. We'll redistrict those, and then we'll still wait on the census data for redistricting anything else.
And are those correct, not districts? Right. You said districts, but I was like, I think those are
districts, but I meant precincts. These
perfect.
are the smallest building blocks that we have to adjust right now.
And then just wanted you also aware that the American Recovery Funds, again, continue to roll out additional information. There is actually a webinar today that I will go back and watch following our meeting from the National Association of Counties. They've released another round of guidance that they were presenting on today. And we also have open for comments until July 9th. So all the counties are trying to look at this and have coordinated discussions throughout. If we have any additional questions, if we need clarification on any authorized expenditures purchases that weren't laid out in the initial 151-page guidance that came out of the Treasury's office. So we just want to keep you apprised of that information. And then other than that, I would stand for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Hamilton. Okay, we're going to move on to item 6, procurements, contracts, and agreements. Item A, request for approval of license agreement with WellPath LLC for electronic medical records access for the Roosevelt County Detention Center.
And I'm filling in for Mr. Porter, who's under the weather. This one is the contract, the license agreement. Both myself and Mr. Knudsen have reviewed this one. And this is in regards to the new funding that we received for the MAP program. So we're super excited. I know we've talked about this at length, but I would stand for any questions if y'all have any. Otherwise, I would just ask for approval.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Paul? Yes?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Request for approval of renewal of the 6th Amendment to the agreement for the comprehensive healthcare services at Roosevelt County Detention Center. I'm guessing that's also Ms. Hamilton.
Yes, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I know Mr. Porter presented on this during the budget workshop, but what we saw was the 3% increase, which was the CPI adjustment to the medical contract. The medical contract agreement now is in their 4th renewal. We have, I believe, 2 more years, and then we'll have to go out for RFP again for these services. The detention center is very pleased with the services that we're receiving from WellPath, and we work very well together. The total for that contract is $631,546.92 for a period of 12 months. And then we also had them add on the amended section So it's all in one part of the agreement to include the medical services for the MAT program. However, it will be invoiced separately because MAT program funds will pay for that, whereas county general fund will take care of that, the other portion, the major portion of this. But the MAT portion for those services is $135,229.56. That was included in your packet, as well as at the back, it gives you a layout of the staffing. So just so you're aware, we did add several more hours, and you'll see other providers in here in terms of the mental health mid-level and professional for upping those hours. Again, that's all specific tied to the MAT program. So I would stand for any questions, but I would request your approval.
I have one question. I think it's been asked before. On the healthcare services, that's pretty much, we've stayed at the same rate as far as the contract roll amount.
Correct. It's just the 3% that I mentioned about the CPI index, and that's the consumer pricing index that is an allocated amount that was specified in the contract and in the agreement so that we can keep it within, it's easier for us to budget when we know that we're working with the CPI from year to year.
Right. So this is the $1 million question, because I think it's been asked, but can we use those funds that we're going to be receiving to pay for a contract like this?
Again, as I clarified, it's only for the MAT portion. So the grant funds that we received are going to be paying for the $135,229.56 for the MAT funds.
Right. I know that, but the other funds that we're looking at, the 3.5 million,
No,
we cannot do that.
no.
Thought I'd ask. You gotta use
Sorry.
it
So
somewhere.
for the American Recovery Funds, they're very specific on what they're limited to. But this is standard. This is not something that's tied directly to COVID. This is something that the county has to provide regardless of the situation. So they wouldn't qualify.
We got a motion and a second to approve. Dennis? Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item C, ratification of agreement for electrical services for Millen Sand Fire Department Tower. Ms. Hamilton?
Yes. So, Madam Chair, Commissioners, we're just asking for ratification. The Millen Sand Fire Department was needing to change their tower location, and they needed service by the electric co-op. They did ask me to sign this. Mr. Montiel works with them through emergency management, and we were needing to sign this back the end of April after our last meeting. And so we went ahead and signed off on the agreement for electrical services. This is something that they'll pay for out of their fire funds. But we did want to ask for ratification because it is a new contract.
I'll say. Got a motion and a second? Paul? Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Request for approval to accept grant award for summer enrichment project. Ms. Oles?
Yeah, so again, I'm
Ms.
filling in for
Hamilton?
Ms. Oles. My apologies. So we received that agreement this morning. So I looked through it very quickly, as well as Mr. Knudsen just looked through it. What we received was the draft agreement. It does not yet have a grant number, and it doesn't yet have a signature, but those are the only two changes. It's a very standard boilerplate from the Public Education Department. Our award is for $79,346. So we're very excited about that. What that's going to be able to fund, the way that we wrote this out, was 3 potential coordinators and up to 40 potential students. So we're looking to be able to utilize this to employ 43 contractors for a period of time. The coordinators will be for 10 weeks. And again, it's $500 per week. So it'll be a total of $15,000, $5,000 for each coordinator. And each student will be employable for 6 weeks, and they will make the state minimum wage of $10.50 per hour. And again, that total for that line item is $50,400. And again, it's very standard, just talks about the agreement. They've provided sample job descriptions now for both, so that we're able to roll those out. So the next step will be in working with our 4 school districts to provide them information about the coordinators. And then we're receiving clarification that it will be for high school seniors. And when asking for more specific like ideas of what, incoming, outgoing, both. So we're going to be able to at least hit the incoming senior class, the outgoing senior class, see if we can pull in our 40 students from there, and then we will work from there with the guidance of the public education department. So we're excited.
Is this just for county jobs? I mean, county grant, or can they work with other areas?
So this is like what we discussed in the workshop. So this goes throughout. So there are partners that were approved throughout the community in our grant applications. So the hospital, La Casa, we've reached out to mental health resources, the chamber, economic development, the city, the county, all the school districts, and said, hey, if you're interested in hosting, would you please let us know by a certain date? And then once we have those lists, then what we are to do is match up those with the student's interest. So again, if we have a student that's interested in criminal justice, then maybe they want to shadow with the sheriff's office or the police department or the detention center. And if they're interested in economic development, then we will partner them with there if economic development wants to take on an intern, or the Chamber of Commerce if they're interested in PR or marketing or advertising. So we really want to connect these students with their areas of interest so that we can give them some true experience within the workforce to improve their hireability as well, and to ensure that it's a positive relationship and experience for both.
What I mean is more in the private sector, like some of the local businesses in town. Is it only government entities that I'm hearing, like schools, the hospital?
And license type stuff. So that was what the public education department approved, correct? That was in our application.
I'll make a motion to accept the grant award.
I'll second. We got a motion and a second. Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
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 Motion carries. Thank
Thank
you, Ms.
you.
Hamilton. Request for approval to accept American Rescue Plan Act funding. Well, I guess it's a good thing you're here, Ms. Hamilton. It's you again.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. So we just wanted to acknowledge that Roosevelt County was awarded $3,593,408 in the state, local, the fiscal recovery. They call it so many different things. But these funds are here. This is a process we have to go through, and actually I have to put in an extensive amount of personal data to receive this. So they have to do a biometrics face scan. It's a federal requirement with ID.me. It's tied to my social security number. And again, I don't touch the funds, but it's because they require this from each individual entity. So there's been concerns expressed throughout the nation. However, it's just an unfortunate part of the federal government's process to receive these funds. So we have registered for all of that. And the first phase is coming into the county, and it will be half of that. So it'll be about 1.7 million and change. But we want to acknowledge that and have the commission's approval to accept those funds so that we can move those over to the appropriate account and move forward with the commission setting the budget for those funds. There's no formal contract. We just have it under this because we want to acknowledge that the county is willing to receive those funds, if that makes sense.
I'll make a motion to approve. Got a motion and a second? Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Request for approval of scope of work with Behavioral Health Services Department in Roosevelt County for RISE project funding for continuation of MAP program FY22 at the Detention Center. Ms. Hamilton.
Yes, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I'm so very excited to announce that after just quick phone call and we went through some things. They have actually offered us a contractual agreement and a scope of work to continue on. As you know, we started this initially in March and the fiscal year ends in June. And so they're looking to continue to fund Roosevelt County in the coming year. And so that scope of work was provided in your packets. Nothing changed in terms of deliverables. Justin and I both felt like it was very important that we stay on where we're at because we're still very much in the initial stages of the program building. But we do have that program manager for the MAP program posted at this point. We're still accepting applications and hope to begin interviewing in the next week or two. So I would stand for any questions if you have any on this. Otherwise, I would ask for your approval.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I will move to approve agenda item 6F, approval of scope of work with Behavioral Health Services Department and Roosevelt County for RISE project funding for continuation program FY22 and RCDC.
I'll second. Got a motion and a second. Commissioner Lopez? Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 7, resolution, ordinance, and proclamations. A, consideration of resolution 2021-24, fourth quarter, part 1 budget adjustment. Ms. Riviera.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, included in your packet is the Part 1 of the fourth quarter budget adjustments. There's a few on there. I just want to touch on, of course, the main one is the budget adjustment for the acceptance and budget of the federal recovery funds that our county will be receiving this quarter. So we'll need to make that budget adjustment to show that in our budget. I'll stand for any questions.
Make a motion to accept resolution 2021-4.
Got a motion and a second? Yes. Commissioner Lopez. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, new business. Item 8A, request to consider reinstatement of membership with EPCOG. Commissioner Lopez.
Madam Chair, I know that this is a joint request from you and I, but I had asked our county manager to put this on the agenda just so that we could put it up for discussion / debate, see if it's something that we want to pursue with this contract. I know that in the past couple of years we have not partake, but I still truly feel that it would be in the best interest of our county to partake in this particular program, contractual program. I know that it's at a tune of $3,500 annual fees, but I truly think that we would get our bang for our buck with some of the services that EPCOG provides for counties in and around our area. I think it's a 7-county area.
And I agree with Commissioner Lopez. Is there any other discussion anybody wants to have on it?
Yes, when we quit being members there, we was in a budget crisis. And in that time, we went upon ourselves to start trying to get our own fundings, monies. And we have done really well, I thought. I mean, in the last 6 years, we have seen pretty good turnout from us doing our own, and our county manager turning in and getting things shovel ready. For me, I don't think we need to spend the money to join this again. I think like today with the state highway department here visiting with us, I think that does more than having somebody speak on our behalf, more that we speak on our behalf ourselves instead of someone else. So I'm against joining.
Your turn.
You may tell you how I'm gonna vote, or you want me? Don't proceed on.
I'll make a motion to partake in reinstatement of membership with EPCOG
I'll second. Commissioner Greider? Yes.
No. Yes.
Okay. Motion fails. Okay, item B, consideration of request for approval of FY21 preliminary budget. Ms. Hamilton.
Yes, Madam Chair, Commissioners, so included in your budget binders, this is, of course, following the 5.5-hour budget workshop. Y'all made the discussion.
I need to go into public hearing.
Oh, yeah, we need to. Forgot about that one.
We go into public hearing, presentation of FY22 preliminary budget. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Greider? Yes,
Yes. Yes.
we're in public hearing. Would anybody want to have anything to say? Nothing?
Make a motion to come out of public hearing.
Got a motion and a second. Commissioner Lopez?
Yes.
Yes. We're out of public hearing. Ms. Hamilton? Sorry.
Yes, Madam Chair. No, my apologies. I should have caught that. So included in your budget binders was all of that was presented and discussed during the 5.5-hour budget workshop that the commission held last Thursday. There were very minor modifications as y'all requested. In the commission budget, you'll see there was $2,000 put in for education. So that is to allow a couple of conferences for each one of y'all to attend. You also had various other the requests that were already in there as far as the commission goes. And what we would ask is that this is the preliminary. And so this will at least allow us to have the preliminary budget approved. You are aware, as covered in the recap, in terms of the general fund. Right now, general fund revenues are projected at $8,600,382, and that does reflect the modification to a 95% collection rate that the Treasurer's Office requested be budgeted for our property taxes, which did offset and help offset our budget deficit. Right now, your total expenses that you have preliminary projected is $10,387,941. So the difference of that is $1,787,559. Of those, there are $1,624,492 in non-reoccurring capital expenses. And that is what we will wait to see. At this point, we do have a substantial cash balance, but you also have your $3 million that you've set aside for your capital projects that are in your fund as well. And so I do not anticipate that we'll necessarily need to pull from those funds that we have set aside for our capital projects. But with the road barn and some of the other larger things that you know you're going to be experiencing in fiscal year 22, those are the ones that we will be anticipating. So again, preliminary budget, we won't approve any of our capital outlay to really necessarily start work per se to move forward. Until y'all are able to look at a final budget, but this will at least allow us to move forward with payroll. The current, I would say, operational deficit is $163,067, and that's what's projected right now for y'all to use from your cash balances to move forward. And again, that has separated out your one-time capital expenses. Because there are a variety of other projects that y'all wanted to have moving here. So in your supplemental information, you'll see summaries. And then we also have added that capital projects list that y'all have approved that was in the April 6th budget workshop. And those are your priorities. And then once we get to a point where we have our final budget and you're ready to start moving forward with a lot of those capital projects, then we'll be able to move forward from there and bless that and make any final necessary tweaks with your final budget submission that will come at the end of July. In each one of these, you will be able to take them home. There hasn't been any substantial changes to any of the other departments or elected officials' budgets. The only other thing that we did include in that was for the hosting offsite, because we didn't, based on our discussion, there wasn't any concern. It seemed like the commission understood why we were making those recommendations, and so we budgeted accordingly for those. There's a lot in the book, but other than that, I would stand for any questions if y'all had anything specific about your preliminary budget. And it was a 5.5-hour budget workshop, so I know you know this intimately. Yes, sir. And no food,
Yeah, there was no food.
except for the jerky. Sorry.
I saw my friends over here at the fairgrounds.
That's not included in your budget. So that was one change. I'm so glad you brought that up, Commissioner Lopez.
Actually, it was a joke, but it's not a joke.
I know, but I made that change. So in the windmill budget, you will see that there is only a $5,000 budget in there for equipment repair and maintenance to take care of that. There is no budget at this point for grounds work. We will wait and see if our 4th application to New Mexico Clean and Beautiful was successful for your fence.
It was just it's not just for me, it's for the county-wide.
We have a motion to
I'll
approve.
continue to fight.
We have a motion to approve. And a second. Commissioner Greider? Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, item 9, executive session. Pursuant to 1015-1 NMSA 1978, limited to personnel matters, and 7, attorney-client privileged information pertaining to threatened or pending litigation, specifically the McFarland versus Roosevelt County, Hernandez versus Roosevelt County, Aguilar versus Roosevelt County, Porter versus Roosevelt County, Taylor versus Roosevelt County, Weber versus Roosevelt County versus NMTRD, Arthur versus Roosevelt County, Padilla versus Roosevelt County, National Prescription Opiate Litigation, and discuss attorney-client privileged information relating to pending or threatened litigation and/or limited personnel matters.
Yes.
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 Yeah, motion carries. We are in executive session. Any action necessary as a result of the closed executive session? We need to limit that.
Well, good news for him, he's on vacation, and good news is there's a job for somebody now. This is good news. Good news, he's retired and he's on vacation.